Well, good morning, guys. Today's Sunday, so guess what that means? We have Sunday school. Any of you remember what we're doing? I won't make that my trivia question. That would be too easy, wouldn't it? Uh, what we're doing is we're talking about the book of Luke, and we are at the very beginning of it. But before I start, this Sunday is really important, isn't it? Guess what today is? Pretend like you know, even if you don't, or you might hurt your mom's feelings. Today is Mother's Day, all right? And for those of you that live in a cave, maybe weren't in the area, I don't know what it would be. We had snow yesterday. So here I am, stuck in the house. And it's funny because I feel like I'm stuck in the house, but really it isn't that much colder than it was last Sunday, and I was outside at an undisclosed location. But for some reason, if there's a little bit of snow on the ground like there is now, I feel like I can't really go out there. I need to stay inside by a fire. So here I am. Here's what I want you to do today. Here's your homework assignment. Today's Mother's Day. So I want each and every one of you watching to do something special for your mom. Or your female guardian. I want you to write a letter, I know, in handwriting, and make it like a card. Take a piece of paper and fold it that way so it looks like a card, and you could put a little title there, and on the inside, just like a card, write something about her. If you don't know what you want to write, list the things that she does that you appreciate. List your favorite meals that she makes. List the way she does things during the day for you. Write something nice, all right? Do something now special for your mom. Unload the dishwasher. Maybe do the dishes in the sink. Vacuum a floor. Wow. I think I've told you this story, but it's embarrassing. I lived with my brothers in college, and that's not the embarrassing part, although if you knew my brothers, you would know how embarrassing that is. But the embarrassing part was we had lived there about a year, maybe a little bit more, and Tanya was going to come visit for the day. So I thought, you know what, I maybe should run a vacuum around the place. So I found the vacuum. I wasn't even sure where it was. And then when I found it, I plugged it in, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what's going on here? I couldn't find the power switch, like to turn it on. And at that time, one of my brothers walks in the house. I didn't realize he was standing there looking at me. And he's standing there watching me, and I'm looking for this power button, and I look up, and he's there. I'm like, ugh. And he goes, you don't know where the power button is? I was like, no. He goes, you've been here over a year, and you don't know where the power button. That means you've never vacuumed the floor here in a year. So, yeah, I got busted. So maybe run the vacuum in your house. If you don't know where the power button is, your mom will gladly show you where that button's located. I guarantee it. Do something else if your mom, if your flower garden's not covered in snow like ours, maybe go out and volunteer to weed it or something like that. Do a couple of things for your mom, because moms are special, aren't they? I think we all know that. So, we're going to go into the book of Luke, and we're going to talk a little bit about moms. And now, not really, but I'm going to try to work moms into there more than I usually would in this particular sermon. So one of the moms we're going to talk about here briefly, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information yet, is Elizabeth. And do you know who Elizabeth was? Question. Elizabeth was the mom of John the Baptist. And Elizabeth was an aunt. She was related to Mary, right? And in this, we read, you know what, I may not even read it. I might just start talking here. I'm just kind of ad-libbing as I'm going here, but I feel like maybe just talking about it. You guys can read it. Let me at least tell you where I'm going to be talking about. But we're in Luke 1, chapter 1, verses 5 through 7, okay? And Elizabeth was not able to have children, and She was married to Zechariah. Oh, I was right. You got to be right on these things, or our Peter and Micah will call you out on it, won't they? So, Zechariah and Elizabeth were married, and it says here that Elizabeth was barren. Do you know what that means? It's kind of a weird word, isn't it? We don't really use it today when we talk about women. Yeah, it's a little weird to say a woman is barren, but you know, there can be barren deserts, barren wasteland, that sort of thing. That's why it feels weird to even say that on Mother's Day or any day, but especially Mother's Day, that she was barren. But nonetheless, what it meant was she couldn't have children. That's an easier way to put it, isn't it? A little easier. And I always wondered to myself, because I think I confided in you guys, I read the New Testament and I don't read the Old Testament as much as I should. So that's what I've been working on here. And thankfully I have been, because I have some information for you you'll find very useful, I hope. But I always wondered, you know, Zechariah and Elizabeth are married. How do they know it's Elizabeth that's barren? So, not doing any research, just dumb luck stumbling onto it, God guiding my dumb head. I've been reading Genesis. I just decided to start there. Pretty original, right? And in reading the book of Genesis, I'm reading about Abraham, and I'm reading about Isaac. And Abraham and Isaac were married, and I think I have a trivia question for you. Abraham was married to who? That's your trivia question. You tell me who Abraham was married to, and you get a prize. Okay? It's coming from the same place all the others are coming from. So those of you who've gotten them, you know where they're coming from. But Abraham and his wife were unable to have children. And then I thought to myself, well, how do we know it's his wife who's barren? Well, it's kind of a weird thing today. It's actually kind of frowned upon today, but not kind of, I think it is universally, but you have multiple wives, okay? And then you have slave women that could have children with you as well. So Abraham knew he could have children. And yeah, there's no gentle way to put that. He just had other wives and other women he could have children with, and it was all legal, okay? And Isaac had a wife, and she was barren as well. And it's just interesting, isn't it, that we're looking at this line of families that were considered to be great, and their wives are barren. Their wives are unable to have children. Let's put it that way, especially on Mother's Day. Let's be sensitive, shall we? So I'm sure Isaac, it doesn't say it here, maybe because it was so common in that day and age, but Isaac and Rebekah had children eventually, but it was said that she was barren initially as well, or unable to have children. So I didn't read anything about it, but I can only surmise that Zechariah and Elizabeth knew the same way that Abraham and Isaac knew, look, I can have children, she can't have children. So it's probably along that route, and I feel a little weird for saying that way, because I couldn't verify that was the case with Zechariah and Elizabeth. But nonetheless, it was known that Elizabeth was barren, or unable to have children, in this politically correct environment we live in. And but it goes on to say that both of them were upright in the sight of God, just like Abraham, just like Isaac. So we're talking about a line here. We're starting to see a pattern develop here. But they had no children. Elizabeth was barren, and they were both very along in their years, just like Abraham. And Isaac wasn't overly old as like Abraham was, or like Noah was when he started having children. Did I mention Noah? Yeah. And but nonetheless, Isaac was like in his 40s, I believe, which was pretty relatively young, comparatively young. If you go back into the book of Genesis, and just, I'm not going to tell you where it is. You can just read Genesis and find it. It's pretty close to the beginning, though. So read about it, and you'll see there that, boy, some of these guys got old, you know. It just reminds me, unfortunately, and it isn't the case at all, that people lived longer back then, but, and God had put a time limit on lives, but still these guys lived, you know, 170 plus years. And it just reminds me of these old guys you see, you know, mostly Hollywood types that I pointed to the TV. These Hollywood types, they can be 80 years old and they've got a 25-year-old wife or some crazy thing like that. So nonetheless, both of these people were advanced in years, but unable to have children. And another name pops up in the beginning of this, and it's Herod, King Herod, Herod the Great. Remember him? We talked about him quite a bit. I think we've talked about him in both Matthew and Mark, and there was little that was great about Herod, remember? He was kind of a horrible ruler. Although his enemies, it was all agreed, you know, in everything I read about Herod, and because we've now studied in Matthew, Mark, and here he is mentioned in Luke, but they're all talking about the same Herod, is a horrible ruler in the way he treated people, right? He would kill everybody. King Augustus, ruler of Rome, said you were better off being Herod's pig than you were his son. He treated his pigs better than his sons. Oof. So you want to talk on Mother's Day, huh? Holy cow. But Herod, he could build they were amazing builders. He would have these amazing, elaborate buildings, build temples, and just beautiful. Even his enemies agreed nobody could build like Herod. So, you know, Herod's Construction, Inc., boy, you didn't want to cross him, though. That's all I can say is don't cross the man. But Herod, remember, was the one, Herodias requested Herod's soldiers to take the head of John the Baptist, remember? And King Herod had a wife, and she was a princess. He threw her into prison so that he could marry Herodias, and he was captivated by her beauty. Sounds romantic, but she was a pot stirrer. She was problems. And let me get this straight. When Herod threw his wife, who was a princess, in jail, her dad found out. So Herod's father-in-law found out, and he started to hunt down Herod. All right, and well, he was called King Herod. Let's back up just a little bit here. But he lost the title of king. Augustus, Caesar Augustus, took the title away from him, so he was no longer king. But Herodias wanted Herod to be king so badly. She kept telling him, you got to keep asking. He asked to the point that he angered King Augustus. So between that and his first wife, the princess, and her dad, those two basically forced King Herod and Herodias out of where they were living. I can't think of the name of the town right now. It's just blank to me. I had all this, I thought, figured out, but now I'm losing my mind. But they were forced out into exile, and they went to the town of Gaul, Gaul, Gaul. And it's there that the two of them, living together, I'm assuming married, but who knows, committed suicide and died. And that's where they ended their romantic escapades. So that is King Herod, Herodias, Elizabeth, Zechariah. I think I covered it pretty well. I don't want to get into verse 8 because I have a lot of material there. And I'm looking at my timer here, and I'm already pushing 15 minutes. So I could go 5 more, but Actually, if I went into 8 through 23, we'd be here for about an hour, so we'll have to break that up too. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there, if there are any mothers watching this Sunday school program. For those of you kids that are watching this, please take care of your moms. It's so important. Those of you that live with single moms, I need you to do extra, okay? Because not only is your mom being a mom, your mom is being a dad too. And your mom has a lot on her plate. She's working, she's coming home and taking care of you guys, making sure everything's the way it needs to be, at least the minimums, right? I know what it's like growing up in a single household, so there's a lot that goes on there. And sometimes as teenagers, we don't feel like helping as much as we should. So I need you guys to go an extra mile. It's just something you got to do, all right? Happy Mother's Day. Take care of your moms. We love you guys. Can't wait to hang out.